So the Fair Housing Act.
Oh,
you know,
I don't want to go there right now.
Yeah,
because I mean that's impacting our wealth.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, if it wasn't for the Fair Housing Act, that's saying that redlining is illegal,
right?
You know,
right,
and that we cannot discriminate based on race when it comes to the housing market. Now this was passed in the '60s.
Yes.
So you have 1968, the Fair Housing Act, and so you think about that. You have when we talk about the black-white wealth gap, there is a like 300-year head start. And
listen, I want you to say right there because I literally just looked it up, just make sure my numbers were right. And we talking about the wealth gap.
Yeah.
And you said it's 300-year head start, right?
Yeah, I said 300 if we're counting slavery and Jim Crow.
Yeah, slavery and Jim Crow. So white people had a 300-year head start. For every $100 in wealth held by a white household, every black household would have $15.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is impactful because of that head start.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what you said before. We just want to be equal and have the same opportunities as you to build wealth for our families.
Yeah. Yeah. We want the same thing, and so, but we have to look at, like, even with that. So a lot of us will look at, like, most of our parents probably bought in the 60s when that Fair Housing Act came about. So that means that you can live in other neighborhoods that you wanted to live in. And then you have to look at what happened to our neighborhoods. Because those who had the ability to move out, moved out and took the resources. And so you have that on top of, we can't get into a whole history lesson, but there's even a lot of policies when you talk about the Nixon and the Reaganomics, how it impacted our neighborhoods. But then you go into, okay, my grandparents have a house in Savoy Heights. And so Savoy Heights was a redline community.
Sure was.
And so in 2021, when I looked at what my grandparents' house was worth, it was like $66,000.
It's worth more now, though, right?
Yeah, it's worth more now because they started building $300,000 homes in the back. But I'm just saying, like, what they paid for their house in that neighborhood, like, it was devalued. Redlining is a devaluation where the government said that because you're a black body, where you live, the space that you take up is less valuable. And so, so this was legal. So you had there's a book called The Color of Law that'll tell you all about it. But black areas were marked as red. Areas that was in between transition, they were yellow. And then areas that were fully white were green. And so this is when you start having white flight, when we can move into spaces. We weren't wanted there, and so they were saying, like, if you get 2 or 3 in the neighborhood, you started having white flight, and that's when you see the really people leaving the cities and moving to the suburbs and everything. And so you have all of these different challenges. So even with the policy, there's quicksand, there's hurdles that you have to go through. But what did we build on top of the housing market? What did we build on top of these redline, devalued communities? We built the school system.
Sure did.
And so and 30% of your property taxes go to your school.
Sure do.
So if your house is devalued,
so is the school.
So is the school. And so this is when we talk about systemic racism. This is systemic. It's in our DNA. It's baked into the DNA. So what happens is when these laws were changed, so you can have a policy to saying this is illegal. But if you don't go back and repair, if you don't go back and say, you know what, this was wrong what we did. It's not okay just to say this was wrong. This was wrong what we did.
And we
have to go back and fix it. We have to reevaluate these houses. We have to make sure that every school has an equal opportunity. So if this community was devalued, then those schools need to get an additional 30% from somewhere. Like making it equitable. But we've never done that as a country.
Do you think the country will do that eventually?
You know what? It depends on first of all, we have to know what's broken. So it's important for people who are in power to know what's broken. but we have to have people in power that will do justice.
Let's dive into something exciting. Bethel Tech's micro-credential program. Just 15 weeks and you're on your way to mastering in-demand tech skills, setting you apart in today's competitive job market. And the best part, it's all online, 100% online and fitting perfectly into your busy life. Bethel Tech isn't just about tech skills, it's about growing your character through spiritual mentorship and faith groups, shaping you into a Christian leader in the tech world. You'll learn from industry experts geared towards your success. What about landing your dream job? Bethel Tech's graduates are making waves at companies like Salesforce and Dell. And with a price tag of only $5,000, it's an investment in your future that's both affordable and valuable. Are you ready to start? With multiple start dates, there's never been a better time. Visit AnthonyONeal.com/Bethel. Again, that is AnthonyONeal.com/Bethel. And step into your tech career with confidence and character.
That would render justice, that understand what it means to make it right. And so those are the type of people, the mindsets that we have to elect, because if we're electing, because the bottom line when we start talking about white supremacy and racism, like it's not, the bottom line is not hate. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is indifference. Mm-hmm. And so we have to really make sure that we are putting people in place that sees us and that sees that we belong. Yes, ma'am. In all of these different places. And so I don't feel like anything is impossible. I am a hopeful person.
I got you.
You know.
I got you.
Now, do I believe that I'll see it on my watch? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to do everything in my power. Yeah. My little part. Yeah. You're doing your part, Anthony. Yeah. You're educating. Yes, ma'am. So you're educating to the point where, hey, there's some hurdles, there's some landmines, there's some quicksand, but I'm going to show you how to get over those landmines and quicksand. Absolutely. So we have always done that. We have always picked ourselves up by the bootstrap. Yes, ma'am. We are freaking miracles. You hear me?
We are.
I am a descendant of someone that survived the Atlantic slave trade.
Come on now.
I can trace my history back.
Yes.
And so if we think about that, we are miracles.
Yes.
And the things that we've survived, I'm telling you right now, and that is a lot of the fear. Yeah. Is this resilience in this community. Oh, man. You know, because we have made something from nothing all the time. All the time. You know, we took our sorrow and our pain. Yes. And we created blues music.
Man, we took our sorrow and our pain, we created gospel music.
And gospel.
I had a white friend. He didn't know what he was asking me. And I just laughed, Latasha. He said, why is all the black gospel songs always repeating the name Jesus? And every song I hear, they repeat the same thing over and over and over. And I said, well, man, when you're slaves, you got to repeat the name of Jesus just to live. Yeah. I said, so I think, man, that question should be asked differently, which I understand you didn't know, but I'm like, we took our pain, we took our sorrow, we took our struggles, we took some of our fears, and we had to turn that into music to keep us moving forward, to keep us waking up, to keep us praising God. We had to remind ourselves of the true God, because sometimes y'all was preaching the wrong God. Yes. And so we had to flip it to remind us of that. And then he said, but you don't. I was like, brother, let's get in here and go to work, man.
Yeah, like people see like, hey, there are anomalies, you know, there are people, outliers. There's always outliers, but it doesn't tell the story of the whole community. And so, but people like to look at certain people and say, well, if they did it, you know, but like I said, we're not a monolith. We're not. And, you know, and your story is not my story, just like my story is not someone's story that's listening. Yes, ma'am. And this is the thing, we've never had a victim mentality. So don't let people tell you that. Ooh. I hear that a lot where people say, well, when are we going to stop talking about the past and complaining and just do? We just got to go do. Yeah. Like, we've always had agency.
Yeah.
You know, there was always resistance.
Yes.
Do you know how many slave revolts that there were?
No, I don't know that.
I mean, I don't know the exact number, but what I'm saying is sometimes they will say that there wasn't any, but there was several slave revolts. And even when we didn't have, we created, we produced. Like even the fact why people were taken from West Africa, like it was because of the horticulture, like the things that we knew to do, and because of our brilliance, you know, and that's the narrative that we have to change, is that we were always brilliant, you know, and we brought that brilliance here with us, and this country is better because we're here, you know.